Whoops, wasn't paying attention to my time there. So here we are in the third example. Let's see if we can really make sure there's a pattern going on here. So as I said, 3 squared plus x squared equals 6 squared. That's 9 plus x squared equals 36. So therefore x squared equals 27. Take the square root of both sides and you get 3 root 3. So first we had 1 root 3. We started with the shortest side being 2, and we got a longer side of being, longer leg of being 2 root 3. We started with the shorter leg being 3. And so we got a length of 3 root 3. What do you think is going to happen? Hopefully you see the pattern. It's going to be 4 root 3, then it's going to be 5 root 3. Therefore, this, under all circumstances, if you have x as the shortest leg, then the longer leg will be x root 3. And the hypotenuse will be 2x. So let's fill in the theorem. The 30, 60, 90 degree theorem. In a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle, the hypotenuse is twice as long as the shorter leg, and the longer leg is root 3 times as long as the shorter leg. So let's try these triangles for help. Well, notice only one angle was given here. This is 60 degrees. I'm sorry, 2 angles were given here, really, because we always have our right angle in the corner. That means this angle over here is 30 degrees. Remember, the side opposite the 30 degrees is the shorter side, and that is the key, oftentimes, to everything. But it doesn't really matter, as long as you see you have a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So if the shortest side is 5, what is the hypotenuse? Well, the hypotenuse has to be twice that. So the hypotenuse is 10. What does B have to equal, the longer leg? Well, it's just the shorter leg times root 3, and that's it. Okay, here, the 60 degree angle was given again. We have a 90 degree angle here, so here's a 30 degree angle in the lower right corner again. What's opposite? D is the shortest leg, but 20 is the hypotenuse. So if 20 is the hypotenuse, how do you find D? Well, remember that means that it's twice D. So therefore, what is D? D is equal to half the hypotenuse, which is 10. And once you know the length of the shorter leg, you can find the length of the longer leg. The length of the longer leg is opposite the 60 degree angle. The length of the longer leg is the shorter leg, which is 10, times root 3. So it's 10 root 3. And then our final one, our 90 degree angle is up here. We have 17 root 3 is our longest leg, right? Because this must be the 60 degree angle here. So therefore, if 17 root 3 is my longest leg, then what is the shorter leg going to be? Well, hopefully you realize that then F is just going to be 17, and E is going to be twice the shorter leg, which is 34. Okay, now what I suggest you do is you pause, go through some of these questions on your own, see how you do, and then you can come back, check your answers with me for a brief explanation. But I won't take more than this video, so I'll try to get through as many as I can. So pause and then do the questions on your own. Okay, so now you should be checking your answers. So here, oops, that didn't come out very well. Okay, if we look at this diagram, it's three-dimensional. So this is going down from the ceiling to the ground, and then we would go across the floor, which is the diagonal of this floor down here, and then, or cube, and then this is what we're trying to find. So I'll make that a different color. So from the top of the cube to the bottom opposite corner of the cube, that's letter D. That's what we're trying to find. What we do know is that this is a cube, so if this is 12, that means this is 12, right? Which also means this is 12, and this is 12, and this is 12, and we go all the way around. So if this is 12, that means these two are equal. And if it's a cube, then that means we have 90 degree angles everywhere in this diagram, right? So this is a 90 degree angle across the floor. So right now my very first triangle I see is this isosceles right triangle. So if both of these lengths are 12, what is the length of the hypotenuse? That should be 12 root 2. So now this length across here is 12 root 2. So this blue triangle is the next one I'm trying to find. This is the wall meets ground, so that's a 90-degree angle. Across here, which is right here, is 12 root 2. Okay, then I go up the height, which is 12, right? And so how am I going to find letter D? Well, we don't know anything about these angles here and here, therefore it's not a special case triangle. So if it's not a special case triangle, how are you going to find the length of D? You should be using the Pythagorean theorem. So oftentimes these questions are going to encompass Pythagorean theorem along with a special case triangle. Okay, so what do? We do 12 squared plus 12 root 2 squared equals D squared. So use your calculator, plug it in exactly as you see it. You'll get 144 plus 288 equals D squared. So therefore D squared equals 432. You take the square root of both sides, so you can just say that D equals the square root of 432. It says express as simplest radicals. Sorry, we're not doing that. You can round your answer to decimal places. That would be 20.78. So that's an approximation for D, so somewhere in there. So sorry, we're not expressing things in simplest radicals. We are just going to keep it. You can do that. If you have a TI Nspire, that's going to do that for you really nicely, really easily. So go ahead and write the simplified version down, that's fine. But you don't have to if you don't have a TI Nspire. Okay, number 8. Here we have a right triangle. This is, right here, this whole thing is a rectangle. So we have, this is 120, that means this is 120. So if this is 120 and this is 130, what does this length have to be? Well, you should use the Pythagorean theorem. We don't know anything about the angles in there other than that this is a 90-degree angle. In a rectangle, the diagonal does not bisect the angles. So those are not necessarily 40-degree angles. You don't know what they are. So you must use Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus 120 squared equals 130 squared. I'm not going to do the Pythagorean theorem because I know it's a special case triangle. It's a 5, 12, 13. They've all just been multiplied by 10. So instead of saying that x equals 5, I know that x equals 50. And if x equals 50 here, that means it also equals 50 here. Now if this is a 90-degree angle on the outside, we have a 90-degree angle on the inside. You have a 30-degree angle up here, a 90-degree angle right here, which means that this corner angle is 60 degrees. So we have a 30, 60, 90-degree triangle. So I'll do that over here as a side note. This is 30 degrees, this is 60 degrees, this is 90 degrees. We have H, we have this part is 50. Well, what is the rule? If opposite, the shorter side is 50, what is the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is twice that length, which is 100. So my answer to number 8, H is 100. Oh, sorry, G, I forgot G. G is opposite this side. So G is 50, H is 100. Sorry, I shouldn't have called that X, I should have called that G. Okay, number 9, a point up here again. So how do you get a point? You go to the right so many units and then you go up so many units, which creates a right triangle. So if we draw that over here on the side, this is a 45-degree angle, which means this has to be a 45-degree angle. So we have an isosceles right triangle. Notice this point right here. This point is 1, 0, which means that this length, the radius of the circle, so stay with me here, the radius of the circle has a length of 1 unit, right? The radius of the circle has a length of 1 unit. Well, what is this part right here? This is also the radius of the circle. So what does that mean? That means this hypotenuse must have a length of 1. Okay, let's be careful here. The rule says that if in a 45, 45, 90-degree triangle, we start with these sides. If these are x, then the hypotenuse is x root 2. But I just found the measure for the hypotenuse, so I have to set x root 2 equal to 1. So how do I solve for x? I simply divide by root 2, so x equals 1 divided by root 2. Okay, but that's not the answer. Sorry, they want the coordinates, so of point P. So if I went to the right, 1 divided by x root 2, so that's this direction, 1 divided by root 2. Then I'm going to go up the same distance because it is indeed an isosceles right triangle. So my point for number 9 is 1 over root 2, comma 1 over root 2. Okay, how about number 10? We would go to the left a certain amount and up a certain amount. And there's my 90-degree angle right there. Okay, so here's my here's my right triangle. If this angle is 150 degrees, what's left over here to make a straight line? That's 30 degrees because altogether we make a 180-degree angle. Remember, a straight line is 180 degrees, therefore this is 30. And if this is 30, this is 60. Okay, once again, what do we know? We know the radius is equal to 1, which means this part right here is equal to 1, which means this part right here is equal to 1. Okay, so what is the side opposite the 30 degrees? It's half the length of the hypotenuse. Okay, so therefore, what is the side opposite the 60 degrees? It's whatever the shorter leg is times root 3. Okay, now put that together as an ordered pair. Oops, they called this one A. So A, the point A, we go to the left. Well, going to the left, we start here, we go to the left. How many units? We went to the left 1/2 root 3 units. Right? And left means negative. That's why I have negative sign. Then we went up. How far did we go up? We went up 1/2 units. Now, more properly, you should write this as negative root 3 over 2 and 1/2. Why? Well, we're multiplying that together. Negative 1 times 3 is negative root 3. 2 times 1 is 2. So this is the more proper way of writing it. This is okay. Okay, the next one. Here we have an isosceles right triangle, double mark, double mark. If this is root 3, okay, this is x, this is going to be x root 2. Okay, so if this is x, how do we find m? M equals x times root 2. Okay, this is my x right here. So what is the square root of 3 times the square root of 2? Well, you multiply the numbers underneath the radical, they stay underneath the radical, so m equals square root of 6. Okay, now look at this new triangle here. I know that this measure is now square root of 6. It's opposite 60 degrees. That means this is a 30-degree angle. So if this is k, this must be 2k. That doesn't really matter. So how do these two relate to each other? Well, if this is x, this is 2x, or if this is k, this is 2k, this is k root 3. Well, what is k then? If it's k root 3, what does k have to be? So root 6 equals k root 3. Divide each side by root 3. Because they are both underneath the radical, you just divide 6 divided by 3 and you get root 2. Stays underneath the radical, so my answer there is the square root of 2. There isn't going to be a time to explain these last two completely, so you're going to need to ask your teacher if you didn't get it. But notice here, if this is 12, right, then this is a median, so it's going to split this in half, so this is going to be 6, and then you're going to get this 30, 60, 90-degree triangle in here. So you should get that x equals 6 divided by root 3, and y equals 12 divided by root 3. If you didn't get it, then ask your teacher. Okay, they are tricky, but you need to try it on your own. Here, a regular hexagon. If you drew all these triangles in here, okay, well, they told you the length of AB is 8, so therefore all these pieces are 8. And so right there you can see that AD is 16. The more difficult one is figuring out AC. AC is going to be an isosceles triangle. If you do the altitude, what happens? Remember this angle, but you should get AC equals 8 root 3. If you can't get it, ask your teacher. Good luck. See ya.